All right, well, we are back, and it's only fitting. And for everybody watching on the video, of course, we got a guest this week. Ryan Mayer is here. I'll do the full intro in a little bit, but the intro topic is extra fitting with Jeremy Lin retiring because Ryan and I were in New York at the time. We lived together, like we were in Hofstra at peak Linsanity when he broke out with the Knicks. Those initial games, the game against Kobe, obviously the one you think about. I don't know about you though, because during all that, obviously when Melo was injured, like the Knicks were on the verge of becoming that playoff team all the time, a pretty consistent figure there. I wanted to like think it's a flash in the pan and almost like I feel bad because I like almost wanted to be a hater about it so bad. And then we were watching the game, and it was the game against the Raptors where he had the
Yep.
ball last minute. And when he called ISO and waved everybody off, and I said, "Hold on," I said, "Are we really like is are we at this point?" And he splashed it. I said, "No, I'm sold." I was like, "I'm in." I was like,
Yep.
"You
Yep.
can't knock it." Um, I mean, what a roller coaster that was. Like, I can't remember.
Yeah.
And what was most fun about that, right, was just how organic it was. Like everybody lit up. Um, I mean, what a unique feeling, right?
Yeah. And it was one of those feelings too, I think, with Lynn in particular, right? Where I don't know how you felt about it at the time, but when we were growing up, the Knicks had some really strong teams, obviously Ewing, Allen Houston, that whole run, obviously. But it got to a certain point where I was just kind of like, yeah, like okay, they're there, they're around. Like I didn't understand the energy around the New York Knicks or like how into it the city got because we growing up outside of Philly, we were in and out of New York, we weren't there all the time. During that 2 week run, I was like, oh, okay, I get it, I get it, I get where this is like. This is the hype level that we've now seen come back here over the past couple of years when they've started making this run again of just the city's electric. They're going crazy. Everybody calling into talk shows is talking about the Knicks like that. That's the sort of energy and vibe that was coming off. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to see. I mean, I remember being an intern at News 12 Long Island. Shout out to Kevin Maher in the sports department there. But like, I was there one night cutting the clips for the broadcast, and it was one of the Linsanity games, and we were just sitting there in the hub, going nuts every time he hit a shot. It was absolute insanity every time over the course of that 2 week stretch, and then obviously you get towards the tail end of it, he runs into the Miami juggernaut of the time, and that kind of ended things real fast. But man, for that stretch, that was a hell of a run. There was no doubt about it.
It's just that he was the ultimate folk hero, and like everybody
Yeah.
leaned into it. You're right, because because the New York is a city, you've got the Yankees, obviously, who the most successful franchise in MLB history. You've got a team like the Rangers with hockey that's got a lot of standing, but then football, you've got the Giants who are super successful and have been historically. Like you don't really realize the just grip that the Knicks have on the city, and because the Knicks have, we know about the championship drought. Like we know they've been close a few years and they just haven't got over the top. Like when I put my fan hat on as a Sixers fan, like they're supposed to be one of our rivals, but like I'm not gonna. Well, I mean they are one of our rivals. They're not supposed to be,
Yeah.
but like if they win a title, like I kind of want to go up. Like the city's gonna be nuts. Like
It's
the
gonna be
energy
it's
is
gonna be
through the
wild.
roof. And when
Yeah.
they, when it's such a fan base that's been starved, like with hockey, with football, with baseball, with all the other sports we mentioned, like it's just divided up there. Like you have two true fan bases that you can
Yep.
root for. Like sometimes it's geographically, whatever it may be. But yeah, with the Knicks, I mean, and look, we know the Nets are there, but like the Nets are Jersey's team, man. Still, like even with them being in Brooklyn, like
100%.
if
Yeah.
you're gonna have fans, it's in Jersey. It's not in New York. Like everybody in New York is a Knicks fan. And it was like that was, and that kind of springboarded into the Carmelo Anthony run. And I mean, look, Jeremy Lin was only there for 35 games. Like the next year, he was already like he was gone. I mean, he ended up
Yeah.
building a career out of this. He hasn't played NBA ball since 2019. He actually won the
Yep.
championship with the Raptors that last year. He played for the Lakers, the Rockets, the Hornets, the Nets. He's been playing overseas. I mean, he's been in Taiwan, he's been in China playing for those teams. He's been with the new Taipei Kings for the past 2 years, since 2023. But I mean, yeah, like that run, and again, credit to him for building off it. Like Jeremy Lin was because, when you think of those little like flashes in the pan, Jeremy Lin was way more than a meme player. Like the guy was
Oh
good.
yeah,
Like he had a good
yeah,
NBA career. I mean, there was one season that year in Brooklyn, he's averaging almost 25 points a game in 2016 and 2017. Like, he got six man of the year votes when he was in Charlotte after he signed that big contract. Like, good for him for springboarding that into a long, successful NBA career. But I mean, you're right. When you think of like those folk heroes, those flashes in the pan, and of course being in New York helps, being with all
yeah.
those eyes on you, but like, you just think of fun. Like that is one of those truly that I was glad I was there for, and I was glad I remembered. Like that was, there aren't, you see them less and less in the NBA. I feel like these days, like they haven't quite had the impact the way he did when he was cooking like that. But yeah, it was, hopefully we get another one of those sooner than later, because that was just, it was a blast.
Yeah, no, and I think your point too on him using that as a springboard to then build out a successful career, and then not only just in the NBA but overseas as well is a great one, because we do sometimes see those flash in the pan guys, 10-day contract, have a couple of good performances, maybe they sign on with the team for the rest of the year, but then they're gone from the NBA, or they get the training camp invite, but they're now playing overseas in Europe or China or wherever the case may be. And he held on, and not only held on, but held his own in spots across the league. Took on a couple of injuries, which obviously hurt his career over the course of time, but still got that championship out of it with the Raptors. So at the end of the day, like huge props to him. Huge successful career after that. Just incredible run to start it all off with New York.
Oh, and two, when you talk about the impact as well, like when you talk about, the game being global, and with the NBA schedule release, we're going to talk about some of the global games later on in this episode. But, when you talk about the popularity of basketball in Asia, like Jeremy Lin is one of the more successful Asian NBA players that we've ever seen. Like, you think of him, you think of Yao Ming, like these are the guys that, really continue to grow the game to the point where it's huge in China, and you've got all the stars doing overseas there, to the point where Taiwan's getting ex-players and things like that. Like, he really, I think, has been influential beyond that. And of course, him playing in Harvard is just electric as well. Like, come on, coming straight out of the Ivy League. A few fun facts here. Just Jeremy Lin about his overseas while he's been here. He was the champion with the Taipei Kings in 2025. He was a CBA All-Star in China in 2020. Most valuable player in Taiwan in 2025. So, like, look, my man has had that's kind of the dream, right? You go, all the soccer guys do it when they go from Europe to come over here. Like, you milk a few more years in the MLS, or I guess in Saudi now a little bit too. Take it a little more than milking, I'd say. But I mean, yeah, good for Jeremy Lin. Obviously going home there to Taiwan a little bit as well. And yeah, like we said, the impact is huge. There's no doubt about that. And we'll see if he pops back up. Who knows? We'll see if he ends up coaching somewhere, or, whatever. But either way, with the formal retirement, him and John Wall back to back, man. Like, it's starting to, it's hit me a little bit. Like,
yeah. We're getting old, man. We're getting old. That's what it's telling me is we're starting to see a lot of those guys from when we were in that college age range.
More with John Wall, dude, too. That one got to me. Yeah. And shout out to our guy Carlton KB, who was on last episode when we were talking about John Wall retiring. Like, and I don't always mean to make it like LeBron propaganda necessarily, but you think about it, like the first overall pick in the 2010 draft is retiring, and here's LeBron getting ready for opening night, kicking off again. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna get into the full schedule release here in a sec. Welcome everybody to the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. My name is Kevin Rafuse. Justin Cousart is off. I swear he's out. I should have made up where he's at some point. Like it's been like a month since Justin's been on the podcast, and like I swear, like I'm still talking to him all the time.
For Europe, it's fine.
Like a lot of vacation. We used to make it up back in the day. It's like, he's like making cheese in Switzerland or something like that. Like he's really trying to get that perfect hole in his slice of cheese as he works on his sandwich. We'll see. He should be back for next episode. But either way, Ryan Mayer is here with me this week at R_Mayer, MAYER on Twitter, SEO at The Athletic. Like I said, Ryan and I go way back from Hofstra all the way to now. We're going to talk hoops. We got a lot of schedule release stuff to talk about, some opening night. Of course, we got to break down the Christmas slate for everybody. Any other highlights, some of the global games. We're going to talk Western Conference as well. We're closer and closer. We're getting there to tip off. Are we going to talk about the Eagles at some point? Probably. Carlton and I.
That might
Carlton,
come
look,
up.
and Carlton's from Miami, so he can't even blame me last go around. He started asking me about the Eagles at the beginning of the podcast. I'm going to push it to the end of the podcast, but if you want some sneaky NFL talk later at the end of the podcast, you can stay tuned for that. Leave us a review on the iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Player FM, anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find us. Watch the video version of the podcast on YouTube. Just search Drive and Dish NBA Podcast. And now a word from our sponsors. All right, so here we go. Schedule release officially is out. All the games. We're obviously not going to break down all the games. That would be a little ridiculous. Unless we want to do like a 24, casual like 24-hour live stream. Like maybe Justin and I think about that. That would certainly be a way to get the podcast publicity out there. But no, a few bigger ones that we want to talk about here a little bit. We're obviously going to start with the opening night. No surprise, Oklahoma City kicking it off. They'll be raising the banner. They're up against Houston. Matchup that Justin and I have been rooting for, a matchup that I think everybody should be excited about. Kevin Durant, the huge move in Houston this summer. I think we're already like, listen, I know bold take, the defending champion and the guys who just got Kevin Durant, but like this is probably the Western Conference final. Like there's certainly, in my opinion, it's two of the best three teams coming back after it. So yeah, I mean, I think the NBA nailed it with this one.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, first off, you have to lead off with the champ. And when you have the opportunity to have the champ facing off against the team that just acquired one of the top 10, still top 5 players in the league, and Kevin Durant, yeah, you got to do that. That's the right thing to do. League got it right 100%. And yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about the Western Conference later on, I'm sure, but I would tend to agree with you. It's two of the top teams in the West. It's a possible Western Conference finals preview, and man, I'm just excited to watch that one play out. Honestly, like you have a Thunder team that now going into the playoffs last year, the question was, are they still too young? Have they gone through enough of that kind of playoff adversity that you typically see before a team wins a finals, and they come out on top, they win the finals. Now they know they can do it. Now, what's it look like now that you can climb that mountaintop and get that win? So, yeah, I'm super excited to see this one to kick off the slate and kick off a new NBA TV contract as well across multiple different partners. So this should be a fun one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and when you talk about OKC, you're right. All the questions have been answered with the championship there now. The seasoning is definitely there. There's none of that we need to worry about, but it's more of like their biggest issues are almost internal at this point, right? And that's up against the cap. Like the second apron is tough now. We're already talking about moves. I mean, staples of this roster in Lou Dort, the longest tenured Thunder player. I think there's a chance he goes. Obviously, has played a crucial role for them these past few years. You look at a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein, who they brought in last year, signed to a big contract, played a great shot or did a great job for them across the course of the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, with the big contracts, because I mean, they got everybody locked up now. You got Chet locked up, you got SGA locked up, you got Jalen Williams locked up, which like good, reward the guys you got. We know they have just a seemingly infinite amount of draft picks coming. So that's the beauty of it too, is like you really can, if you hit on these picks, that's why everybody's so high on the dynasty. But like, yeah, because I mean, even with a guy like Cason Wallace, like he played quality minutes for them. You're gonna have to pay him at some point. Like that's the challenge now in the NBA. Like we are fully in the league of parity.
Yeah, and I mean, kudos to the league in that sense. They stated that they wanted parity. That's certainly what they've built this out for and built this out to do. As you mentioned, once you start paying those guys, the cash flow becomes tighter and tighter, especially when you have those, top 3 of the previous era when we were looking to join forces with multiple superstars on the same team. Now you really have to focus on how you build around them. Now, the thing that you point out that I think is still really crucial with this Thunder team is they have draft picks out the wazoo for the next foreseeable future. And Sam Presti has seemingly had a crystal ball for a little while now thinking about this era, because the number of first round picks that he has, those become now more and more valuable each successive year, right? Because those are the types of guys, even if they're just outside the lottery, in and around the lottery, that can be those contributing types of players for you to come in and replace guys like a Dort, like a Kason Wallace. That's where you find those guys. Now, it's harder to do because you have to consistently draft well, which any sport across the board is really difficult, but they're set up extremely well here for now and going forward with the future.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be the ultimate test of whether, of what dynasty building potentially looks like, because they're the group that it
Yep.
looks like they have the best chance of doing it. A lot of these other teams have been, going for it in the way the sense the NFL has turned into a little bit, where it's like, no, if you got it, go all in. You've seen what can happen. You could be Indy and you could be in the finals next year. Like you could be, and that's why I applaud, teams like the Rockets going for it, Denver retooling and all that. It's just crazy to think about. And again, we're going to get down the X's and O's, but like if OKC was in the East, God, we'd be penciling them in for the finals right now. And it's the same with like 4 teams in the West right now. Like, and I still think like the Knicks are legit. I don't want to take away from the Knicks. There's a reason I think they're the favorite, but like the Knicks are so far from that like bulletproof favorite that we've seen in some of these conferences over the years, where it's like Knicks would be like 4 or 5 in the West, maybe. Probably. I think. And that's not even a knock against them. That's more of how good the West is. But it's like, I truly do. Like, if I'm looking at my, early preseason power rankings, I probably got 3 or 4 teams ahead of the Knicks in the West. And that's just, again, to the quality of how good the West is. 2 of them we're playing in this game right now.
Yeah, it's wild too, because it felt like for a little bit at least things were starting to even out a little bit more between the 2 conferences. And then here over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5-ish years, that maybe going back a little bit further, you've really started to see that strength come out in the West. And we're talking about the top half of teams. There's still teams out there with really good players, really good rosters that we just have questions about because they're in the West. I mean, we 2-3 years ago, we were all talking about Ja Morant and what he can do. Now, obviously, he's had plenty of off-court issues along the way and injuries in there, but that's still a uber talented dude that they've made some moves around the edges this year. What do they look like? Are they a top team in the West, though? No, they're not. And that's the wild part about it. Just the depth of that conference overall.
And on the flip side, Orlando gets Desmond Bane from Memphis, and I'm like, hey, you know what? You could talk me into Orlando winning the East this year now. Maybe they are onto something. I hear Justin groaning all the way from Switzerland or wherever he is right now. All right, but I mean, the other NBA opening night matchup, of course, is the Lakers and Golden State, which everyone I know is going to roll their eyes at, like, wow, the Lakers and Warriors are on national television again. But I'm here to say the opposite, because, like, look, LeBron and Steph are still doing this, man. And at some point, they're both at the age now where you have to say, hey, this is going to go away sooner than later, or maybe, I guess we've been saying that potentially for a while, but like, I'm trying to enjoy it now. And there is a little more intrigue, obviously, with the Lakers, a pretty new roster, all the additions they made around Luka Doncic this offseason, getting him locked into that first full offseason with him on board, still a wild sentence to say. But even with the Warriors as well, with Jimmy Butler coming back, like we saw him and Steph, injuries ruin that. Like, it felt like the Warriors were getting it together at the right time. They're, of course, going to be intriguing as well a bit, because they're going to put, the young man's game to a test here. They've got one of the older rosters in the league right now. But you just have to, I'm not going to be, because they play for the Lakers and the Warriors, I think there's going to be some extra groan because of the history. But like, I'm putting LeBron and Steph on television for opening night every single year until both of them retire at this point. Like, you just have to.
Yeah. From a pure business standpoint, like there's zero reason for the league to not do this and not open the slate with 2 of the biggest stars of the last coming up on 20 years now, or a little over 20 years now for LeBron, insane, and Steph on the other side as well with his run. So from that standpoint, it makes complete sense. The one thing I will say that struck me when they released the schedule is it did somewhat feel like a little bit of a missed opportunity to not have it be Lakers, Dallas, Cooper Flag, that whole back and forth. The Dallas still, everybody in Dallas still pissed off that Luka is gone, regardless of what you thought of the trade, what you thought of the return, especially now that they have Flag. Like, that seemed like an opportunity opening night to have that matchup, that charged atmosphere. But again, you can't go wrong when you do have these two franchises going up against each other and the star power that it entails. So I totally get it from that standpoint too.
Yeah, I mean, Cooper Flag does seem, because when you talk about LeBron and Steph, I think the one thing too that we've wondered is who's going to be when they leave, and when Kevin Durant to that extent as well leaves, who's going to be that next generation of star. We with Ja, you mentioned the hiccups a little bit earlier. We've seen it with Ant Edwards a little bit, where there's been those flashes. Is it Jason Tatum? I mean, Jokic is a little older now. He's into his 30s, but like, is it Jokic still? Giannis has been a pretty big international face, but like, he never really took the torch from LeBron and Steph the way you kind of thought he might have by now, where he's still very much in his prime and very much dominating the game. But I don't know if he's quite that household name. Like, you're right. You would think maybe from the league a little bit with Cooper Flag already having a pretty big profile, going to Duke, being one of the more heralded number one picks here in a little bit. You would think they would try to get that on TV, but like, at the end of the day, that matchup is still going to be, prime time every time.
Exactly. We're nitpicking at that point, right? Like, you have that this night versus one of your primetime slots another night down the road. That's not really a bad thing or a bad choice of options for the NBA overall. Like I said, I was just a little bit surprised that they didn't take that opportune timing, but also kind of makes sense in some respects too. Dallas still getting a little bit healthy in terms of Kyrie and everything. We don't know what he's going to look like. So yeah, that all completely tracks with, hey, let's put Warriors Lakers on opening night. I will say overall, though, you're talking a little bit about the face of the league. I do have to throw the young man that's down at San Antonio in there. I know we don't know what he's going to look like off a blood clot, but whoo, buddy, prior to that last year, there was some things cooking down there in San Antonio.
Well, that's been one of our big off-season topics, honestly. And since I've asked every other guest we've had about it, it feels kind of fitting. Like, Wemby clearly is this, he's been this generational prospect. He's already arguably the best defensive player in the league. It still feels like the sky is the limit, even with the setback a little bit. We should be having him on opening night, which we're obviously all excited about. Before Wemby went down, they traded for De'Aaron Fox. They now paid De'Aaron Fox. Now you got the number 2 pick, I should say, Dylan Harper in there as well. Like, San Antonio's got to win something this year, right? Like, I need to see them, even with the West being loaded. I feel like I need to see them in the play-in, right?
You need to at least see them in the play-in. I mean, I'd be of the opinion that if they're not in the play-in, that's a complete failure. I'd be of the opinion, I think, too, that if they're not one of the top seeds in the play-in, I'd probably consider it a failure, just in terms of getting one of those 7 or 8 slots in what had traditionally been a playoff spot, and getting that kind of home court advantage in that play-in round. Because to your point, they've surrounded him with plenty of talent. They brought in De'Aaron Fox in the trade. They have the number 2 overall pick. They still had plenty of guys on that roster. Castle, who last year, going into last season, no one would have said, hey, you know what, Stephon Castle is going to be one of the top rookies in the league. Played really well. We probably learned more about him than we would have expected because of the fact that Wemby was injured and he had to take on more of the load. But he clearly stepped up and proved that he's capable of providing a bigger role for that team. So yeah, I would absolutely say they need to be in probably that top 7, 8 teams in the West. Now the West is stacked, as we've been saying. So if they fall a little bit below that, not overly surprising, but they should be in contention for that.
Well, it always just becomes who is the team that drops, right?
Right.
And the logical contention for me right now is Sacramento. Sacramento would be the team that I think takes a step back, and then you jump into the mix. Phoenix is, I mean, they didn't make it last year, but like, Phoenix should be worse than they were. Portland, a little tricky at the end of last year. You see them hanging around, but like, that to me would be the logical replacement there. Maybe Memphis takes a step back post Desmond Bane. Dallas, like you said, some uncertainty with Kyrie, but when you get Cooper Flag and if Anthony Davis is healthy, like, you feel good about that roster. The other reality too is, like, you get the Pelicans. Now, again, huge assumption there with health as always, but like, you never know is the point. But either way, like it's loaded, it's tough. But you're right. I want to see them start to put it together. Like they need to get, if Wemby is going to be this dominant generational force, you got to get into the plan somehow at some point. Like I
Absolutely.
think we're here. The training wheels are off a little bit, and I think but at the same time, like it's the supporting cast. Like I want to give. You have to give some of those younger guys, right? Because even like you mentioned Castle. Castle's still a second year guy in the grand scheme of things. Like it is going to be Harper's rookie year, and so yeah, maybe it is a little unfair to be like, hey, come play high leverage minutes right away, but you just kind of pushed in a little bit when you trade for De'Aaron Fox. So it is like kind of like, hey, these two
Yeah.
enough should hopefully be able to go win something. Plus some of their depth, guys we like Vassell and Keldon Johnson, and I don't know. It just, yeah, I'm glad. Generally, the temp has been the same thing across the board from guest wise, no matter who we've had. Is it's like, hey, it's time, but I almost feel like they've like. And granted, Wemby getting hurt takes a lot of steam out of it, but like it feels like they haven't like this will be the year where maybe they start to get a little heat for it. Like they've largely
Yeah.
been under the radar so far because Wemby's still so young.
Yeah. I think
But
they accelerated the timeline really last year with the Fox trade, right? Like even Wemby year one, obviously, hey, let's see what we've got with this guy. Going into year two, a little bit more expectations, but even still, to your point, kind of building the roster around him. They had brought in Chris Paul to be kind of that veteran guy to help pair with him, show him the ropes through the league. You had the whole situation with Popovich not being able to really coach at all throughout the course of the season, and there weren't as many expectations. It was very easy to understand, like, hey, okay, they're out of the playoffs. Wemby's hurt. Got it. Totally understood. But now, if he's assuming health for him, assuming health for that roster overall, you have to be of the opinion that, yeah, show me something at this point in time, because they've clearly built this to the point where, yeah, this is the timeline where you start to make that playoff push and start to make a little bit of noise in the postseason. Maybe
right,
not win a series, but at the very least, you're pushing somebody and you're making them a little bit scared.
yeah, you got to get in. If you get in, that's fine. I'm okay with them losing their first playoff
Yeah.
series as long as they don't get embarrassed. Like if they get
Yep.
completely run out of the gym, it's a different story. But like, yeah, I just need to see them get in. I don't need to see them making a deep run just yet. I don't think they have and again, theme of the episode, the West is super loaded. Like I don't think you're gonna be there right this second. Switching gears a little bit before we get into Christmas, I do have to say, I want to get your temple on this because like I want the NBA Cup to succeed so bad. Like I really think, again, going overseas to soccer again, you see the FA Cup in the Premier League, you see the Carabao Cup, like things like this work. Like obviously the Champions League is way different than anything the NBA could do, but like that
Yeah.
works. So like I want the NBA Cup to work in that regard. I think it's a lot of fun, but like can we stop starting it so early in the season? Like can we at least get to November? Like
Yeah.
the first games for this are on October 31st. Like opening night is October 21st, I believe. Yeah, October 21st is
You haven't
opening
even
night.
settled into the season yet.
Like I don't know. I feel like the NBA is just continually shooting themselves in the foot with this. It's like not only do guys not know the format, which they're starting to get a little better on, but it's like, you want guys to play because group play is super meaningful in the NBA Group Cup. So yeah, if you lose that first game because you're sleepwalking through your fourth game of the season, I don't know. It just feels like if we want this to be taken seriously, I don't know. Can we move it to like maybe before Thanksgiving? Like, can we get it a little later in the year?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It also feels too like to some extent you're burying this new thing that you want to get a ton of attention for in really the prime part of the NFL season. Like this is right in around that range where if you're a fan of both of these leagues, which a lot of people are, the NFL teams are starting to make moves. The trade deadline, I think, is a week after the start of the NBA Cup this year. So there's going to be a lot of conversation around who's on the move around the league, that sort of thing. You're trying to get shine for this, as you mentioned. You're 4 games in. You have all of these other competing interests. Why not start it a little bit later in the schedule? Either later in November, maybe after Thanksgiving, run it into January. You have the opportunities here to move this around the schedule a little bit, keep it interesting, and they just haven't done that so far. I'm with you. I want it to be a thing. Like I want this to work here because I think there are a lot of things, as you mentioned, in the European soccer space that could translate well if done well for an American audience, but it has to be done well. And that's the thing that I haven't quite seen yet from this tournament.
No, it has the ingredients. Like that's the thing is
Yeah.
they have all the right pieces in place. They just need to make some minor tweaks, and that's what I'm hoping happens. Because I mean, right now, like the in-season tournament final's been entertaining, but you know, we talk about OKC winning the title. No one mentioned that they won the in-season tournament too that year. Like, oh, by the way, if this is a thing, like you got the double, cool, like you did it, like,
and none of that was part of the coverage either. To your point of the championship run, it's not like we were talking about it in the lead up, like, oh, Oklahoma City could win the double. That's something that you see in European soccer for the last like month and a half of the season. If there's a team that's still pushing for the Champions League final, the FA Cup, and the Premier League or whatever league they're in, they're talking about the double or the treble. That was none of the coverage in that lead up to that space because we all kind of forgot about it just because of where it falls in the calendar.
It's odd too because like for other teams, and I mean it's less with OKC because OKC obviously won the championship last year. But like the first year with the Lakers with LeBron and AD getting that one last thing before they get out of there, and for teams that just don't traditionally like maybe won't win the finals, but maybe could mess around and win this. Like I don't know, have fun with it. Like the way that Crystal Palace did when they won the FA Cup last season. Crystal Palace never won anything, and they won the FA Cup and they celebrated like it was the Super Bowl. I love it. Like that's what these things are designed for, and I'm just you're right for the league, like and Adam Silver, who specifically has spent like a lot of capital, like really like pushing this and trying to make this a thing. Like you're right. Like, do you want to show off your shiny new toy a little bit? Like, don't buy the Ferrari and just keep it in the garage all the time. Like, put it out on the road here a bit. Like, yeah, just push it back. Like that's the biggest thing. The guys figuring out the group play stuff, I'm not worried about. But that's kind of the point, though, is where I'm like, you can't expect them to figure it out when the season just started. Like we don't.
Right.
Oh, anyway.
And I get the logic, I guess, to some extent of like, okay, we'll put it early in the season so that there's reasons for those games to matter a little bit more, for people to tune in a little bit more. And it's a good theory, right? Like, okay, this is getting everybody back into the swing of the season, but in practice, it ends up getting lost as opposed to really being that shining thing like, oh, you know what? Hey, NBA Cup starts this week. It's actually more one of those things where you and I will be talking about something and we're just like, oh yeah, by the way, did you see like NBA Cup just started this week, and we completely kind of lose track of it in the space of where it is in the sports calendar.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And I mean, look, again, obviously with NFL, you're in specifically in America, that rules all. But yeah, anyway, I hope this thing can grow. I just hope one day they push it back and they see the writing on the wall. Because I would hate to see it fold. I would hate to see this be a 3-year thing and nobody ever try this again. Like, I almost want the NBA to like go the opposite. I want them like lean into it so hard. Like make us all like flood the airwaves with NBA Cup coverage. Like make us all group play experts and scoring differential guys, like put like flood the block with it, please. Like give us that content. I'd rather have it that way than go the other way. But all right, let's dive into Christmas Day games here a little bit. Obviously 5 games on the slate. We're gonna start early with the Cavs and the Knicks. I don't really think there's any like this was a no-brainer to me. I've been beating up on the Cavs all summer long. I'm not going to do it again on this episode because I feel like Cleveland's going to start to take it personally at some point. But I mean, these are probably, at least on paper, the 2 best teams should be in the regular season. It should have been. It's probably at some point a playoff matchup last year, but we never quite got that far with Cleveland. But yeah, I mean, they deserve to be here. It just stinks. Like this would have been the logical Pacers slot, but it just goes back to the Hallie injury. Like the Pacers would have been here, but yeah, it does take a lot of the steam out of it. Like we don't get that awesome conference finals like rematch that we would have loved to see, that rivalry that has continued to carry over through decades.
Yeah, the devastating injuries from the playoffs really kind of, I think, put a damper on what the league was really able to do here with the Eastern Conference. And you could tell that from the fact that there's 5 games, 4 of them are Western, right? Like,
I mean, it's never split that bad. It's never.
Exactly. It's always a noon Eastern game. Maybe the 2:00 block is a Western game. Then you get the kind of midday prime time Eastern Conference game, and then you go into the night games, right? But yeah, this is literally completely tilted Western side because, to your point, of the devastating injuries that we saw.
what Eastern Conference team should have the most beef here? Because it's like the Celtics are the typical Christmas darlings, but you're right. Without Tatum, Pacers don't have Hallie. Celtics still got a pretty decent rest of the roster. Still, I know some big
Sure.
changes. Like, should the Sixers have fake beef because they could argue like, well, if everybody's healthy, we'll finally put it together this year. Like, is Detroit somewhere fuming? Like, they're probably honestly, if we're talking competitiveness, they're
Yeah.
probably the team that would have the most beef.
Yeah. I mean, you and I are both Sixers fans, putting the fan hat on for a second. No, I don't want to see them on Christmas Day again. I don't need to see them on Christmas Day.
Weirdly, it was great last year. That was the only high point of the season.
But
They beat this. They killed the Celtics on Christmas. You thought maybe for a brief second there was a glimmer of hope, and man, they closed that so fast.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I give me my Christmas Day back without having to worry about my particular rooting interests in that respect. So no, I don't think the Sixers have beef. The Pistons, yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that. I think, at the same time though, when we're talking about who gets that slot on Christmas Day, the team that overall was the top seed in the East last year, yes, had a disappointing playoff run, and the team that's expected by a lot of people to be the top seed in the East this year in the Knicks, like that makes the most sense of the world, especially tipping that off at that time on Christmas Day. So
God,
yeah.
could you imagine? I would love for them to be psychos and tip a West Coast game at like 9. I mean, I guess you do some of the Central teams at that point, but like, could you imagine? Like, give me Lakers and Warriors at 9 p.m. or 9 a.m. in the morning, I should say. But yeah, the Western matchups, like you said, 4 of them. You've got San Antonio and OKC, you've got Dallas and Golden State, you've got Houston and the Lakers, and you've got Minnesota and Denver. So before we get into those, I guess let's reverse my question and say, which of my Western Conference teams should have beef here? Like, who is the most angry they're not on Christmas Day right now from the West?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, you got OKC, you got the defending champs.
The
Houston is
Clippers?
there. I think it's the Clippers too. Like, if
The
I'm
Clip
looking at series,
because I mean, yeah, you're putting in a Dallas team that, yes, has the, as we talked about before, has the TV draw of the number 1 overall pick in Cooper Flag and the hype there, but 10th seed last year going into the playoffs. Like the Clippers, for as much as we may discount it a little bit, they were the 5 overall seed in the playoffs last year. They made some moves during the course of this offseason, bringing in Beal, bringing in Chris Paul. Like, yeah, that would be my team, just off the rip, that has the biggest beef with the Christmas Day matchups. Because I mean, outside of that, who are you going to slot in there?
no, it's them. I think it's the Clippers, and it's not even close. I think I just want to give the Clippers some love more than anything. Because you're right. I don't think with them, if it was 6, like the NBA going 4 West games here really did make it easier on their schedule makers for anybody to not have beef. Like when you've got 8 teams in there, like you're right. San Antonio makes sense because of the Wemby effect. Dallas makes sense because of Cooper Flag and with Anthony Davis, and just like there's star power there. Like the other 2 teams that were in the top 10 last year, Memphis, who we mentioned downgrade a little bit. That's just unfortunately the reality of their situation. They haven't been as competitive these last few years. Sacramento, I mean, again, same sort of deal. Like I don't think they have the star power that these other teams have. Phoenix blew it up with getting rid of Durant. The Pelicans have Zion, but like again, is Zion playing? Are you really banking on that? Like, right. So they really did make it easy on them. And I mean, I like these matchups for the first part. Like, there are some, I guess, if you wanted it to mean a little more, that would have made sense. But I mean, I don't know. I like the little like regional battles you kind of got going here with San Antonio and Oklahoma City. Like there's been, some rivalry there in the past, I guess, in the 2010s. I like the Klay Thompson Bowl in Dallas. Like, hell yeah, get Klay back in the Bay on Christmas. Like, why not? A lot of star power there, the new look Warriors, the Mavericks trying to put all this together. Lakers and Rockets, we've already talked about a little bit. And then with Minnesota and Denver, like you talk about one of the best playoff series 2 years ago, like the matchup that they had. Minnesota's been in the conference finals now back-to-back years. Like I know for me personally, I'm not quite as high on Minnesota as I've been in past years. That's more about just some of the subtractions they've been forced to make. Like, I think losing a guy like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, for example, is a big loss for them. But there's still like you've got Anthony Edwards, like that's one
Yeah.
of the young faces of the league. And so there's not much to complain about with these matchups. I guess overall is the greater point. I'm bullish on Denver again, man. I really like the Denver moves from this offseason,
They
moving
made
on
some
from
really good moves this
MPJ.
offseason. Yeah.
Yeah, the roster just makes a lot of sense. And like, I feel like you have to be encouraged with what you saw out of Jamal Murray in the playoffs last year. Like, he was pretty great. Aaron Gordon was great. Like, I don't know, with Jokic being as good as he is and with him being the best player in the league right now, like, to me, they're the team that's right there with Oklahoma City, who they pushed anyway last year, even with, to me, a worse roster. And then you've got with Houston right there. Like, that's kind of my 1, 2, 3 in the West. Like, and Jokic obviously will help a lot. Like, he will play, he elevated that team probably higher than they would have been last year. But I thought they really did a good job when, it's kind of felt like since the title that the window has been going very much in the wrong direction. And it's like, actually not so fast. Let's open that back up a little bit. Like we got something here.
Yeah. And I mean, not to plug the company that I work for, but the writers at The Athletic would agree with you. They gave Denver the only A+ grade of the offseason, said they won the offseason overall just because of the moves that they made. And yeah, I mean, it very much seems like the mission in Denver this offseason was, hey, how do we extend this title window for Jokic, given that he's still playing at the level that he's playing at? And yeah, I think that's a really great matchup to watch. Obviously, anytime we can get Ant in prime time against a big opponent like that, it's going to be fireworks. It's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that matchup overall. The interesting thing though, to me, Kevin, and this is just a weird quirk that I like to do sometimes when I'm looking at the schedule page, on ESPN.com, if you go and look at the schedule, there's always the tickets as low as number that they give you, and tickets for that game as low as $55. None of the other Christmas games lower than like $200 or $100 for San Antonio, Oklahoma City. Like, if you're in Denver, or excuse me, if you're in Denver, might want to.
You got the late game too. Like that's the thing.
What I'm saying.
You don't even have to sacrifice that much of Christmas. You get all your do all your celebrating in the morning, open up gifts, have breakfast, like do whatever, and just roll right into it. Right, like cap the night off with a little bit of Wolves and Denver. I love
not a bad way to go.
Yeah, have it like spice it up a little bit. Here's the other thing I just like about Denver too, and the reality is it's like, and it flew under the radar, I think, and that's kind of the advantage. Like, this is where you have the advantage of being a great team, but not being necessarily like the marquee franchise of the NBA. I think Michael Porter Jr. kind of stinks. And he was on a horrible contract. I mean, like they maxed him. They maxed him to be the guy. And Denver got off it. Like that's such a big, like they have so much more flexibility now. And then you bring in a guy like Cam Johnson, who's a good quality player right now. Like I think Porter, the concept I still get, like I get, and it's weird because like you can't really call his Denver tenure a failure because they won the title. Like he was a big part of them winning the title, but like I just felt like there was so much meat left on the bone with Michael Porter Jr. And it hasn't even really been the injuries, which are the thing you were kind of worried about. It's more of just like, I mean, he was a non-factor in the playoffs last year. Like I've seen, unfortunately, too many times of guys getting paid a lot of money and then go up to put 5 points up in the playoffs, which is what Michael Porter Jr. was doing at some point. Like I think they dodged a huge bullet there, and it may get noticed a little more now that he's gone. I mean, granted, like he's in Brooklyn. You can go be an empty stats king there right now. Like they're playing for the future. They're not playing for right this second, but like, yeah, they were like, that was not really talked about in terms of like the NBA debrief from last year. Where like, I watched those Michael Porter Jr. games with Denver, and I'm like, I have fire alarms going off all around the building. I'm going, wait a minute, this is all this guy has to do is be okay, and they're cruising past OKC, and he just couldn't give them that.
Yeah, and I think that's really the other underrated part of getting off of that contract. You mentioned the injuries; they haven't really been the limiting factor for him thus far, but he's continuing to age. And when you've had the injuries that he's had, and you're starting to get into those age periods where your game starts to pull back a little bit more, there's a little bit less athleticism that's in that tank. that's when those things can really snowball and go downhill. And yeah, I think over the course of time, we're probably gonna look back at that and say they got off that contract at the right time.
Well, it just allows them to build the depth back too. Like if
Yep.
Porter's going to be a true third guy, then you can get away with it being, hey, Jokic is such a super freak that, we can with him and Jamal Murray, if we
Right.
have a true third, we know Aaron Gordon can play that 4 role. Like, maybe our depth won't matter as much. If Michael Porter stinks, then that depth matters a ton. And that's what I think we saw last year is just like, they have some good players. Like Christian Brown's a good rotation player,
Mm-hmm.
but like a lot of their guys just like weren't ready. Like they didn't have that, they just weren't ready for the spotlight yet. Where now I'm like, no, this roster makes sense. Like they just have backup plans for if Jokic is
Yeah.
off, if Jamal Murray is off and not giving you, the record with him scoring over 20 a game was absurd last year. But like, it gives you that flexibility. And that's what you're going to need. I mean, I think if anything, that was the big takeaway from the playoffs last year, right? It's like depth matters so much in today's NBA.
Yeah, and that all comes back to the parity conversation that we were having earlier. Just the ways in which this new CBA impacts roster building makes it so that the depth is the more important part than necessarily just the top end of the roster, like it was previously. To your point, when you could have Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Michael Porter Jr. and be like, you know what, we're good. That's our big three. We can carry this and just fill in spare parts around it. And I think that's been part of the reason that you've seen really the Lakers kind of struggle here over the past 4 or 5 years, not necessarily just in the last year or so since the CBA was implemented, because they have been trying to follow that old model of, okay, here's our really sun and moon players in LeBron James and Anthony Davis, now LeBron James and Luka Doncic. Let's fill in with pieces around them. The depth is important, and good depth, not just depth for depth's sake, is really the key.
I don't think it really gets talked about it like as much, but I think the one thing too, specifically like Lakers wise, that really did them in, and because you talk about the model and like what they were preparing for, they were all in on Kawhi, and they were so close to landing Kawhi.
Yeah.
Like if you look at that roster with LeBron, Kawhi, and AD, you go, oh hey, like assuming health, like they're beating anybody.
Yeah.
It did. They had to pivot then. Then that's when the whole Russell Westbrook thing happened, and that kind of cooked their books for a little bit. Like they've done a decent enough job getting depth in the past few years. And I don't even hate all the moves they made this past offseason. I just don't know if it's enough, I guess is my question. Like there's still, I know they got Ayton, but like we've seen what kind of happens with Ayton as your lead big at this point. Like there's still a few pieces short there. I feel like they probably need another wing. I don't know. They just like, and that was also part of the like trading LeBron or trading for Luka. Like you gave up a lot of defense to go play with Luka. I think that was on display last year. They've done a better job at kind of filling out that roster to make it more defensive oriented. And I'm interested to see the slim down Luka too. Like Luka has decided that he's on the revenge tour this offseason, which good for him. Like this is what everybody's been calling for. Like they want you to lock in and be the top player in the NBA. Like you kind of have the potential to be. I'm excited to watch it, but you're right. Like I think their depth, just that's what has me like in the Western Conference with them. Like you talk about your tiers, and it's you mentioned OKC, you mentioned Houston, you mentioned Denver. I think is tier 1. That tier 2 to me is like the Lakers, the Warriors, the Clippers, the Timberwolves. And that's probably it, like all the varying extents. Maybe one of them drops to tier 3, but like to me, you have to have a lot of things go right or them to make a mid-season move for them to just jump into the true contention. And again, unfortunate for them because, like you said, even those 2-tier teams, you put them out east, and I'm like, hey, welcome to the conference finals. All right,
exactly.
Look around, book your tickets to New York. They're on sale right now. But it's they just need to make a little bit more. And maybe to different extents. Like I do, we talked about Clippers a little earlier. Like you can get me up to like 3 or 4 with the Clippers, honestly, if everything goes right. Like it's always health there.
Yeah, it's a big if for me with the Clippers, because it very much just feels like a roster that, yes, we have the names. We added a couple more this offseason, but a couple of things go sideways with 1 or 2 of those guys missing extended time, and I start to get a little bit worried about where they fall in what is a stacked Western Conference. I don't think they fall out of the playoffs by any stretch of
No.
the imagination, but I just mean in terms of jumping up into that tier one, like that's what has me more worried than anything else.
Where are you at with Golden State?
Yeah, I can't get there with them to get them into that top tier. I mean, Steph still incredible, doing mind blowing things. Like the roster around him has been solid in a lot of ways that they've built up, but I don't know that watching them in the season last year, in the postseason, it just felt like there was a little bit of a gap between where they are right now and where that group that is really pushing for not only the conference finals but the NBA finals is at the moment. I can't get there with putting them up into that tier.
No, I need to see them be. It's a lot of health with them too. Like the regular
Yeah.
season, I think how they position themselves is going to be huge seating wise. Like try to get yourselves in the best matchups possible. But you're right. Like with their age, how hard can you really go in the regular season anymore? Because if they're not healthy for the playoffs, then we already kind of know what it is. Like we saw it last year with what happens. So, again though, with Steph, with Jimmy, they're going to intrigue me no matter what.
Absolutely.
Like, and I still love the Warriors going for like getting Jimmy Butler was absolutely the right move for them. Like that's what you should be
100%.
doing. Trying to that the team post Steph and post their last championship run, like they're not really in a position to win anything. With Jimmy, you at least have like worlds where that can happen. Like pre-Jimmy, it was like, no, we're just going to let Steph ride off into the sunset, or he's going to go ask to get traded somewhere else and go, make one last run at it.
It feels very much like a team that, because to your point, because of those guys needing to be healthy and needing to be probably not minutes restricted in terms of like a strict time cap on what they're playing each game, but the less wear you can put on them, the better during the course of the regular season. Falls into that 4, 5, 6. There was a 7 seed last year, somewhere in that realm of the standings, because of what they're trying to save themselves for the postseason. And then if you get to the postseason and those guys are relatively healthy, all bets are off. I'm not going to sit here and say Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry can't get something done in the postseason. Like I can't say that, but it's just that game in, game out during the course of the regular season that I don't know that I can put them up in that same sort of tier that the rest of those teams are.
No, I mean, they closed strong at the end of the second half last year, and that's what I think you have to be encouraged about. Is it's like, hey, in a limited sample size, they're pretty good when it mattered.
Yeah,
like they really were starting to click with something. It was an injury that kind of took away from it a little bit, and so I think there's enough there to be encouraged about. But more importantly, as we begin to wrap up this episode, there is one team that also finished extremely strong in the second half of the season, and that is the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, who are I got the old one out today. This isn't even the last one. This is the first 52. One now. But yeah, I mean, that's still, you go back and watch the Patriots game and it's like, how did they win that game? Like, I still don't know how they won that game. And not like last year where it was like, no, we smoked them. That was great. Yep. But yeah, we're here, Eagles, Dallas, like repeat season potentially on. We know that's hard to do in the NFL, but kind of like the Eastern Conference, I think the NFC is kind of weak right now as I'm looking around it. And so I think like, that's just why I'm bullish. What it all comes down to is like, if I'm in the AFC and I got to play some combo of like the Bengals, the Bills, the Ravens, and the Chiefs, that's not fun. Like that's basically Super Bowls you have to win to get there, maybe even 3 potentially. Where like Detroit's going to be better because they won't be injured. Other than that, like Washington got older and we put 55 on them last year. Like I'm still not there yet. I like the Rams, honestly. The Rams are the one people don't talk about. The Rams are close to beating us last year.
The biggest problem that I have with the Rams, though, is I don't know how much you've been following this Matt Stafford back situation.
Yeah,
but I was, Charles McDonald, shout out to him from Yahoo Sports, had a saying that no one ever used to have a bad back. This man's just got a bad back.
Yeah,
like that's where we're at. And when he's going into whatever infrared light treatments he's going into on a day-to-day basis to get out there, like that worries me. It feels like late stage Tony Romo to some extent, where the back injury it's taken a lot for him to even get out there and play. But yeah, Devontae Adams, adding him, subtracting Cooper Kupp, who had kind of like fallen off a little bit, giving them a true X receiver on the outside, huge. The only other team right now, and it's because of the move that they made last week, that worries me in the NFC is the Packers. And Parsons, again, does seemingly have an actual back injury. Who knows if he actually plays in week 1? But, whoo, buddy, adding that dude to that front
No,
seven.
they swung. I like it. I respect it.
That's going all in. That's pushing the chips to the center of the table. And yeah, I mean, that was a team, to your point with the Rams, like Eagles didn't exactly handle the Packers either in that first round wild card game last year. It took Dallas Goedert stiff arming the hell out of Kenny Ballantyne to get us past that game. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, that's probably the team that worries me the most right now in the NFC. I'm interested though by some of the teams that are out there. The Vikings have a hell of a roster. I just don't know what they have at starting quarterback with JJ McCarthy. What does Chicago do in the first year under Ben Johnson? Like, making it a little bit easier for Caleb Williams. There's a lot to be interested in, but to your point, there's no one that I'm looking at and going, oh yeah, they have Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow, fill in the blank guy, who I'm really worried about playing in the playoffs.
The Eagles have like one thing roster-wise that I'm maybe worried about, and that's DN. Like, Nolan Smith is great. I think Jalen Hunt's going to be great. He was awesome last year as the season ended. I have a lot of faith in that breakout. But after that, we're kind of like relying on some journeymen a little bit. But like, I'm looking around and going beyond that. Like, yeah, cornerback 2 might stink a little bit, but like,
Yep.
you know, it's pretty good everywhere else. And like, I think safety is even a little overblown at this point. Like, even if if Makuba is healthy, I think he's going to play. And Sidney Brown is like, he hasn't taken the job the way you wanted, but I don't think he's the worst either. And that's kind of like, that's fine. He just needs to be competent.
I also think you have the best defensive game plan caller in the league in Vic Fangio, who will figure out what his weakness. You saw it last year in the early couple of games. Avonte Maddox is starting in the slot. The defense looks kind of like the 2024 end of the season defense, where they're giving up big spots, big plays, all that sort of stuff. Cooper DeJean comes into the lineup, into the slot, and it was night the rest of the way. So that's the type of thing where, you know, I think that Fangio, first couple of weeks may look a little bit rough, especially with a young defense, and one that, you know, adds a ton of younger pieces in there. What does Jihad Campbell look like when he's in various different spots?
They should be scared about what he looks like. That boy looks good. That boy looks good. That's what he looks like.
Yeah. Like, what does that look like? What position do we have him in? Those are the types of things that I think the first couple of weeks of the season, Fangio is going to figure out and know how to move those chess pieces from there on out.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the schedule's obviously tough. The woes of winning the Super Bowl. You have a tough schedule the next year, but no, I mean, it's hard not to feel good, just especially when the whole offense is back. Either way, it should be fun to have it back. Dallas on Thursday night. We hopefully smoke them. I can't believe they traded Micah for that. Just unbelievable. I hope Jerry Jones lives forever. Like, I will personally sponsor. Jerry Jones is a billionaire, and I will sponsor a cryogenic chamber for that man. Like, keep that guy alive forever. Give me any adrenaline drug you got. Like, we full on weekend at Bernie's.
It's crazy. Did you see? Sorry, I know we're completely off topic right now, and we're trying to end this thing. But did you see his initial response in the press conference? It lasted 11 minutes. Podcast listeners, listen. We've been talking for a while now, Kevin and I. It's been us back and forth. At no point in time has either of us just monologued for 11 minutes during the course of this podcast, okay? Put a timer on right now. Go on a walk around the block, and I guarantee you will find out 11 minutes is longer than you think it is.
Way longer.
And that dude talked for that amount of time just off one question. Just, Jerry, why'd you make the move? And just went on a rant. As you said, keep him forever.
I gotta pull it. I gotta pull the clip one day. I think I may have hit like maybe a 6-minute monologue at one point on this podcast. And it was after, I even remember what it was. It was after the Sixers trade, and this is so sad in hindsight. It's after the Sixers traded Nerlens Noel. But why I was so mad about it was not the fact that they just didn't play Nerlens and they forced fed Okafor and didn't even try to do Embiid and Nerlens, which had positive early returns and on. It was the fact that they then lied about it and said that they got a first round pick out of it. When that first round pick was like 1 to 27 protected, and it, for like 1 year, and then it chopped into 2 second rounders. So I was like, you are lying to us. Like, you are telling me the Dallas Mavericks are not gonna, who are not in playoff position right now, are not gonna be a top 27 team. I was like, oh god, I was so like, they just thought they thought we were dumb, and that's what was more than anything. Is I'm like, of all the things this organization's done, like, don't gaslight me at least.
Even that was nearly half the length of Jerry Jones responding to a question about Micah Parsons.
Insane. I hate, like, we've had maybe, because like I think Tim may have done one way back in the day. Like, there's maybe twice in 11 years where I've done a solo podcast, and I'm so uncomfortable the whole time. Like, it's so, like, what do you, like, I'm talking to myself for 20 minutes, and like, it's not even a monologue. Like, you know, you got the little outline, you have your talking points and stuff, but it's like, what are we doing here, man? Like,
and that's the other thing. That was off the cuff. That man did not have anything in front of him. He was just speaking to the camera.
At least he knew. At least he knew he'd have to justify it. But if you had to spend 11 minutes justifying it, like,
probably made the wrong move.
Yeah, it's usually not great. Hopefully you all have made the right move and listened to this podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Driving Dish NBA podcast. Leave us a review on iTunes. Good route to read them on the podcast. Follow Ryan on Twitter at @R_Mayer, MAYER. Of course, SEO Athletic. Always make sure you're checking their stuff out. Appreciate you coming on, bud. Full disclosure for house cleaning notes or housekeeping notes. I always do this at the end of the episode now. I'm going to be out of the country for 2.5 weeks starting this weekend. That's not a flex. Justin can tell you where I really am, or he can make it up. I don't know. The point is, like, there might be an episode with Justin and I between now and then, but I'm not 100% based on our schedule. If not, Justin and I will be back together eventually at some point, but he's going to hold it down with a guest then for a few weeks. It's like we're playing Ring Around the Podcast right now, but yeah, stay tuned for all that coming as we get closer now. September is upon us. NBA season will be back soon. Again, anywhere you get your podcast, you can find us. Leave us a review on iTunes, or watch the podcast, I should say, on YouTube as well. Search Driving Dish NBA Podcast, and we will see you guys next time.